Tonight, tragedy in Georgia, an explosion and raging fire at a sugar refinery. Dozens are burned as the death toll rises. And in Missouri, a murder spree at City Hall. 5 dead because of one man's rage over parking tickets. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, a scam that costs taxpayers billions. It's Medicare fraud, and it's happening everywhere. Meet the bookkeeper who blew the whistle and picked up a huge reward. Plus, Assignment America, the hospital where an artist is drawing patients out and helping doctors heal.
It got me to approach patients in a different way.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. We begin with a tragedy that is still unfolding at this hour just north of Savannah, Georgia. An explosion and fire at a sugar refinery. Tonight, 4 workers are known to have died while the search continues for 4 others. And police believe it was sugar dust in the refinery that exploded. Kelly Kobayea has the very latest from Port Wentworth.
It was like walking into hell, said one of the first on the scene. The explosion and fire tore through the Imperial Sugar Company refinery just after 7 Thursday night, shaking walls and nerves up to 2 miles away.
I saw women last night running down the road looking for their husbands and just frantic.
At least 100 employees were inside at the time, working the second shift. 32 were taken to hospitals. 17 of them burned so badly they had to be airlifted to burn centers in Augusta, 130 miles away.
They'll need multiple units of blood as they undergo multiple surgeries.
The fire burned all night and into the afternoon, even as rescuers pulled 4 bodies from the debris.
It really looks like a small war zone in there.
They're still looking for as many as 4 workers, including Janae Williams' uncle.
Just pray that everybody can make it out safe and sound.
While the search continues, state and federal fire investigators are already looking for a cause, focusing on a storage silo holding refined sugar for packaging and highly combustible dust. It has sparked fires in food plants before, including several sugar refineries. Crews are fighting through fire, collapsed walls, and as much as 8 feet of water because pipes burst during that explosion. And the number of dead is expected to go higher, in part because so many of those who made it out alive are burned so badly that they may not survive. Katie?
And Kelly, will the search continue throughout the night?
It has actually been suspended at nightfall just because it's so difficult inside. They'll bring in some heavy construction equipment, try to remove some of that debris so that the search for those 4 missing goes a little smoother tomorrow.
All right, Kelly Kobayea, thank you so much. Now moving to another tragedy, that deadly shooting rampage at a city council meeting in Missouri. Today, police revealed the gunman left a suicide note warning, quote, "The truth will come out in the end." He killed 5 people in the St. Louis suburb of Kirkwood and wounded 2 others, including the mayor, who tonight is in critical condition. More now from Cynthia Bowers.
The council meeting had barely gotten started when the shooting began.
This is a tragedy of untold magnitude.
The killer had a winning smile and a sweet nickname, but for years, 51-year-old Charles Lee Cookie Thornton had fought bitterly against Kirkwood City Council over parking tickets and fines related to his construction company. Thursday night, he decided it was time to end it.
My brother went to war tonight with the people that were of the government that was putting torment and strife into his life.
Police believe shortly after 7 last night, Thornton arrived at City Hall and shot and killed a police officer. Taking that dead officer's gun, he stormed the council chambers, firing both weapons, killing another policeman, 2 council members, and the public works director. The mayor and a journalist were injured. Additional officers arrived, then shooting and killing Thornton. It has been a week of deadly shootings across the country. At Louisiana Tech in Baton Rouge today, a female student entered a classroom and killed 2 other co-eds before shooting herself. Yesterday, outside Los Angeles, 5 were left dead after a man shot his family and a SWAT officer before he was killed. And on Saturday, 5 women were executed inside a Lane Bryant clothing store in suburban Chicago.
We pray for restoration.
Back in Missouri, mourners gathered to remember the victims and the man who killed them. It was no secret that some of the council members were afraid of Thornton's temper and even considered banning him from public meetings, but in the end decided as a fellow citizen he had a right to show up and voice his opinion. Katie?
Cynthia Bowers, thank you very much, Cynthia. In other news tonight, President Bush toured some of the worst damage from Tuesday's tornadoes, now blamed for 59 deaths. In Macon County, Tennessee, where 14 people died, the president met with residents and predicted the community will come back better than before. Tennessee and Kentucky have requested federal disaster aid for the victims, and the president has granted it. Now to the presidential campaign. Mike Huckabee picked up the endorsement of James Dobson, an important voice within the religious right. But tonight, there are questions about Huckabee's relationship with another high-profile evangelical, Kenneth Copeland. As we've reported, Copeland is one of 6 televangelists currently being investigated by Senator Charles Grassley. More now from our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan.
I asked the governor earlier.
Last fall, Mike Huckabee taped this appearance on Kenneth Copeland's popular television show. The theme, integrity of character.
Treat these people like you'd want to be treated.
Now some are raising issue with Huckabee's character, principally his judgment. They are focusing on his association with the televangelist who has refused to cooperate with the Senate investigation into his ministry's finances. At issue, as reported by CBS News last week, whether millions of dollars in tax-exempt church donations have been used to bankroll a lavish lifestyle and a slew of private for-profit businesses.
Mr. Huckabee has terrible judgment because not only is he being closely associated with someone under this ethical cloud, he's refusing to distance himself.
Governor Huckabee is not here in any kind of political role.
After his appearance, like many guests, Huckabee stayed overnight at the ministry's lavish 18,000 square foot lakefront home.
Yeah, all I know about him is that he's a delightful human being.
But before the show on integrity aired, Grassley's probe went public. So Copeland went back to the ex-Arkansas governor with an offering.
I said, Governor, if this will negatively impact your campaign in any way, I won't run those broadcasts. He hollered at me on the phone. He said, "Are you kidding me?"
CBS News has learned that Copeland's family has donated more than $29,000 to Huckabee's campaign. And just 3 weeks ago, when Huckabee was on the financial ropes, Copeland helped raise thousands more from hundreds of ministers attending a meeting at his West Texas headquarters. Nobody is saying how much.
But if it's legal, legitimate, honest contributions, I'm not sure what the premise would be of giving that money back.
For some, it may well be the premise of a presidential candidate not practicing what he preaches. Armin Katayan, CBS News, New York.
In other political news, former President Clinton says he's learned a lesson on the campaign trail. While in Maine, he said he'll now promote his wife but let others defend her so he won't become the story. Mr. Clinton has been widely criticized for statements he made about Barack Obama last month. Both Democrats campaigned today in Washington state ahead of tomorrow's caucus. 18,000 Obama supporters filled a basketball arena in Seattle. And one more note from the campaign, Senators Clinton and Obama continue to spar over who's better able to withstand GOP attacks in the fall. I spoke with Senator Clinton before she attended a rally in Arlington, Virginia, and Steve Kroft interviewed Senator Obama. You can see both of our interviews this Sunday on 60 Minutes. There is much more CBS News ahead, including Assignment America, a hospital that's painting a brighter future for its patients. But up next, honesty can be worth millions. Just ask the man who exposed a huge Medicare fraud. Medicare costs U.S. taxpayers more than $400 billion every year. One reason the price tag is so high is Medicare fraud, healthcare providers and patients making false claims and cheating the taxpayers. Well, now the government is fighting back and getting help from whistleblowers who know stealing when they see it. Cheryl Atkinson has the story of one honest man as we follow the money.
Robert McCaslin is a man of few words.
Just the way I'm wired, I guess.
But many scruples, which is why he lost sleep over major taxpayer fraud he unearthed while working in billing at the Harris County Hospital District in Houston.
It's an attack on the whole system. Everybody that pays taxes is involved in this.
McCaslin caught the hospital billing Medicare for accident victims, even if the patient had private insurance that was supposed to pay. The hospital also billed Medicare for prisoners, even though by law, they're not covered. When McCaslin alerted his bosses, he was surprised to discover they were in on it.
In one of the meetings with the manager, they said that's just the way they did it here. That was their procedure.
It's not just a problem in Houston. Across the nation, hospitals are sending Medicare improper and fraudulent charges, and it's costing you big time, nearly $11 billion tax dollars a year. The government started a pilot program and sent private auditors to comb through hospital bills in 3 states, looking for Medicare ripoffs. In 1 year, they were able to make hospitals pay back an astounding $240 million. That's in just 3 states. The audits are supposed to expand to all 50 states in March.
Imagine what will happen when it rolls out nationally, the amount of money could be saved. And unlike a lot of things, this money goes back into the healthcare trust fund, which lengthens its life and shores it up.
Without serious help, the trust fund that pays Medicare hospital bills will go belly up in 2019. But not surprisingly, the hospital lobby is trying to put the brakes on the audits, saying while they support the idea, the program is flawed and unfair. Meantime, people like Robert McCaslin will be out there fighting one hospital at a time. He helped the Justice Department build a fraud case that ended with the Houston Hospital District giving taxpayers a giant refund.
The hospital paid back approximately $15 million, and I got $3 million.
That's right. McCaslin got a windfall he never expected. Under federal law, whistleblowers can get a piece of the settlement. Now he has the money to drive a nice new car. And in his typically understated fashion, he told us how he planned to make up to his wife for all the sleepless nights.
We're going to Paris for Valentine's weekend, and that'll be nice.
A win-win situation for taxpayers and the man who didn't say much, but did the right thing. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Houston.
And a warning today about Botox, which many people use to smooth out their wrinkles. The FDA said Botox and a competitor called MyoBlock have been linked to botulism, primarily when used to treat muscle spasms. A handful of cases in children were so serious they resulted in death. The government said patients receiving the drug for any reason should be alert for botulism symptoms, which include muscle weakness or difficulty in swallowing. Up next, what exactly is a superdelegate? We'll get out the magic markers and explain. On Super Tuesday, the voters put John McCain on the fast track to the GOP nomination. But the battle between Democrats Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama could last for months, with the nomination decided not by voters, but by superdelegates. It's very complicated, so tonight we're trying a new approach, something we call the fast draw, to explain who these superdelegates are and exactly what they do. Josh Landis and Mitch Butler have just joined CBS News, and welcome, guys.
Thanks, Katie. So what a lot of people don't realize is that when a race is really close, our democratic system does something a little bit undemocratic. It takes power away from the voters.
You remember back in 2000, the presidential race was decided by the Supreme Court. And for the Democrats this year, another group of appointed officials will be calling the shots.
Pay no attention to the superdelegates behind the curtain.
Like the great and powerful Oz, these superdelegates are pulling the levers of power in your political party.
Which means your vote may not be what you think it is. Even if you and your party members across the nation choose one candidate, it does not guarantee that that person will become the nominee.
Here's why. When you cast a primary vote for your candidate, what you're really doing is telling a group of party officials, and these are the delegates, which candidate you want them to pick at the national convention.
But not all of them have to listen to you. Among those delegates, there's an elite corps called the superdelegates. These people are like political wizards. They have the power to support any candidate they want, even change their minds at the last minute, and they answer to no one.
In each political party, about 20% are superdelegates, enough that even if voters clearly pick one candidate, the wizards could still have enough power to tip the scales the other way.
And you know a lot of these people.
Jimmy Carter,
Bill Clinton,
Al Gore,
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi,
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid.
The Republicans call their wizards unpledged delegates, and they're usually not big names, but they're just as powerful.
So that's how the system works. Now let's take a look at how things are shaping up right now. After the big showdown on Super Tuesday, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are in a tight race for delegates. It's so close, it will be the superdelegates, not the voters, who choose the Democratic nominee this election year. On the Republican side, John McCain has a much larger lead over his competition, especially since Mitt Romney has dropped out of the race.
But there too, the power of the wizards outweighs the voters of any one state.
This superdelegate system may sound a bit anti-democratic, but the idea here is to give established party leaders more control so that primary voters don't get carried away with someone who looks good but could never win a general election.
These wizards are senators, representatives, governors, former presidents. They know the system very well, but do they know better than you do?
Let's hope so, because that's the way it works. And one of these days, the next leader of the free world could be in the hands of these superdelegates who don't answer to you or any other primary voter.
Pay no attention to the superdelegates behind the curtain.
Now I get it. So how do you become a superdelegate? It sounds like a great job and certainly all-powerful, right?
Yeah, well, it can be. You get to be a superdelegate or an unpledged delegate if you are a major elected official, from a big city mayor to a former president. They also include members of the National Committee, and some are just specially appointed.
All right. Well, that was great, you guys. Thank you so much. Josh Landis and Mitch Butler. I enjoyed that. Thanks. That was fun.
Good to be here.
Coming up next, from sketching delegates to painting patients, Steve Hartman with some folks who are getting better with an art transplant. Finally tonight, Voltaire once said, "The art of medicine consists in amusing the patient while nature cures the disease." Steve Hartman found one artist who is doing just that in tonight's Assignment America.
On the 4th floor of the University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha, they're doing cutting-edge research on bladder cancer, the mechanics of cancer stem cell replication, and the healing power of portraits. That's right, portraits.
I'm hoping to affect mankind.
The work is being done by Scottish-born artist Mark Gilbert. A few years ago, Mark did a whole series of portraits on some hospital patients in London. And it was during these sittings that Mark says he first noticed the medicinal effect of having one's portrait done.
Some people just enjoyed taking part. Other people actually got, a very tangible therapeutic, cathartic benefit.
That's definitely been the case with Glenna Oltman, who has now sat for Mark half a dozen times. Glenna is recovering from jawbone cancer.
You get so down and so depressed, but this really brought me out of it. It's made me feel like I'm a whole person again.
Eventually, Mark will draw and paint about 15 different patients. Also, for a separate study, he's giving art lessons to medical students to see if drawing can improve their observation skills.
The actual act of drawing is an incredible way of absorbing information, and you don't have to be a good drawer to do it.
The hospital won't know the results of either study for several months, but so far the feedback has been glowing, especially from this one.
Keep looking.
He's drawing me.
5-year-old Daisy Friedman is a transplant patient.
Tomorrow.
Doctors had to remove her liver, but left in her ham.
And sorrow.
Oh, she's getting such a kick out of it.
This is Daisy's mom.
I mean, she puts on her tutu, which she has only for special occasions.
By their very nature, hospitals will always be gray and lonely places where people dream of tomorrows.
Tomorrow.
But thanks to this most unusual research project, today isn't so bad either.
Come what may.
The Omaha portraits will eventually go on display, but not till December. However, you can see more of Mark's other artwork right now via a link we've provided on our website.
He's really talented, and I bet
very
just
talented.
having that human contact, the presence in the room, does open up the patients and is really comforting.
I was surprised to hear it, but patient after patient said the same thing.
That's fantastic, even if they maybe didn't like the way they looked, right?
Right. Yeah, he captures them honestly, and they seem to appreciate that.
All right, so tell us about next week, Steve.
Okay. Next week, this 11-year-old always loved basketball. Then she got bone cancer. Doctors said no more physical contact. What's a girl to do? Next week, her hoop dream loophole. Keep your story ideas coming by going to cbsnews.com and clicking on Assignment America. That's where you'll also find that link to Mark's artwork.
Okay, Steve, thanks so much. And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric in New York. Thank you for watching this week. I'll see you on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. Good night.